I can't do this. The reality is there's always a way, especially if you were built to do this. So we can't give up. I always use the example of a car going up a hill and it's shaking as it's going up the hill. And you just say, forget it, and you start going back down the hill. But you didn't realize here was the top. You were right there, and the rest was going down easy. We quit too much.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset, everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer. Be sure to head over to clicksandbricksacademy.com so you can access all the resources to start improving your sales today.
Today, I'm talking to Joe Pellegrino. He's a serial entrepreneur. How you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing well.
And you're with Not Just an Average Joe, or you're the founder of Not Just an Average Joe, but you're also
In fact, I am not just an average Joe.
Fantastic. And can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and a little bit about what it is that you do?
Yeah, sure. As you mentioned, Ken, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started 15 companies, sold 3, lost 1. And the one that I lost was the greatest experience of my life because it made me come face to face with who I am. So I've been using those experiences to help other companies, help other individuals, whether male, female, or kids, and to be who they were built to be.
Fantastic. And you didn't start as an entrepreneur, but you've been an entrepreneur for a long time. Can you tell the audience a little bit about, how you got your start in corporate America and what some of those, key factors were to bring you from corporate America into owning your own business?
Sure. Back in 1984, I came out of University of Scranton, and I graduated after 3.5 years because I wanted to beat everybody to the marketplace. So I finished in January 31st of 1984. And as I got home, the phone rings and it's Whitco Chemical Corporation. And they asked me, hey, we got your resume here. We'd love for you to come in tomorrow for an interview. I said, sure. I hung up the phone and I said, what resume and who is Whitco Chemical Corporation? Apparently my father created a resume for me and was sending it out. So I went the next day for the interview. I nailed it. And the day after, I started my corporate career as a staff accountant for Whitco Chemical Corporation in New Jersey. It was the most boring thing I've ever done in my life because my personality, as you'll probably find out after this podcast, is kind of high type A. And I was bored, but I stayed for 2 years to get some experience. And actually, I got 2 promotions before anybody in company history ever got one because I taught myself this thing called the IBM computer and a program that was called Lotus 1-2-3 for those of you who remember that. And I rewrote the training, the management reporting because I learned this computer, which I would come in 2 hours early every day to learn. And so I became proficient at it. And after 2 years, I left and I went to smaller companies because I wanted to get a more how to be an entrepreneur kind of feel. And I met a president of one of the companies that hired me, and he left after 6 months after I got there, and he brought me with him to another company. And 6 months later, we went to another company. And 6 months later, we went to another company, a 4th company. And I was getting $5,000 increases for each one of these businesses while I'm getting a full grasp of what it means to be an entrepreneur. And in 1989, I left those companies and I started my own, and I've been on my own ever since.
Fantastic. And then sometime in this journey, you create Not Just an Average Joe, which is a very unique way to help. Is it just business owners or anybody can jump into this consult?
It's everybody. I mean, I'm a disciple of John Maxwell and his leadership courses. And as a matter of fact, I'm a John Maxwell certified coach and trainer. And I wanted to take everything that I've learned from my business career and be able to help people. And a lot of those people are very young. My goal is to catapult them to make them understand, first and foremost, what their identity is. And then once showing them their identity, showing them their purpose. If you're a corporate, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to look at your business, I'm going to analyze it, and I'm going to give you feedback. And I'm going to do it in a guaranteed fashion, Ken, which basically says you're going to pay me $995 to look over your business. You're going to answer a few questions. You're going to give me your website. And I'm going to spend about an hour and 15 minutes with you after that. And I'm going to share with you the vision that I see for your company. And I'm going to guarantee you that it's going to be well worth the $1,000 $1,000. And after our time together, if you're not pleased whatsoever, then you get a refund of the $995. And the only caveat is you cannot use what I gave you as ideas, but I guarantee that you will be very, very pleased with what I come up with. And then you'll also retain me and keep me to be a consultant for you. Well, I call that reverse engineering consulting, right? Because the reality is I'm putting my money where my mouth is.
Right. And I assume that you're not investing just an hour and 30 minutes with the whole thing, right? They're going to fill it out. You're going to do a full analysis of what you really think. You're going to do some research and things like that, and then come back to the table. Does that include stuff like marketing concepts, or is that more like
we will talk about? I'll give you like 5 concepts. Okay. And what we will do is, if you want to move forward on them, whether you want to build a sales funnel or whether you want to create a book, we'll get a book published for you. We'll do anything that we believe will catapult you forward, regardless of your size, regardless of your budget.
Okay, fantastic. That is wonderful stuff. So they come in, they pay $995, they go through the hour and 15 minutes with you. A couple days later, I'm assuming, or maybe a week later, after you've had some time to go over all that stuff. And then if they say, you know what, this wasn't for me, I hate all your ideas, they get their $995 back.
Correct.
Fantastic. 100% guarantee. Very 100%. Hard to beat, right? The number one
Very
thing,
hard to beat.
The reason why most consumers don't buy is fear of loss, right? They're afraid that it's not going to work for them, or they won't do it, or something like that. So if you have
let's eliminate that objection then, right?
Yeah, if you have a business and that's the number one objective, and you can overcome it by giving a guarantee that's actually meaningful, like you get your money back if it doesn't, if you don't like it, that's a huge benefit for not only the consumer, but I think if you do that as a business owner, you'll either find that your product sucks and people are always giving people money back, you should get a different business, or that you'll really get a lot of more sales. So that is a fantastic strategy. It's one that I teach in my course too, is to always give a guarantee if at all possible of some kind. So you came up with this half-baked workshop, and it's got 5.5 questions in it. Can we just go over those 5.5 questions with the audience, and maybe why each one of those is important?
Sure. The 5.5 questions was before the workshop. Actually, it's part of the workshop, but it's a standalone product and workshop that we do. It's called the 5.5 questions everyone must answer. It's a book that I wrote last year. And the goal of this book is to basically introduce you to yourself and your purposeful identity. And the goal is very, very simple. I believe that these 5.5 questions, if you take them seriously, because they're very simple questions, but you really need to sit down and take them seriously, they're going to change your life and change the way you look at things. And the questions are very simple. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are you passionate about? What's your brand? And what do you believe? And the half question is the most important. Why? Why do you have those strengths? Why do you have those weaknesses? Why are you passionate about what you're passionate about? Why do people look at you the way they do, and therefore they brand you? And why do you believe what you believe? So if we break it out, we understand that strengths are, I believe they're God-given strengths, because I'm a man of faith. So I believe they're God-given strengths, and we need to feed into those strengths because they're our strengths from God. So I'm going to feed into those strengths. Our weaknesses, we recognize, and I break down weaknesses into 3 types of weakness. There's a DNA weakness, which basically says I was born this way. So if I'm born with the proverbial 2 left feet, I'm probably not going to play center field for the New York Yankees as hard as I try. But I recognize it's not something I'm gifted in. And then there's a life-altering weakness, which basically says I've experienced something terrible, a death, a loss, an accident, something that has really hurt me tremendously. And these are weaknesses that we must overcome. Otherwise, we will crawl up in the corner and die. And then there's a character weakness, and character weaknesses are lying, cheating, stealing, all these things that are going to stop us from being all that we can be. So the latter 2 need to be overcome, while the first is one that we recognize as, okay, you know what? I'm not going to focus there because it doesn't make any sense. Then we get into passion, and I believe that passions are given to us. The things that we get so excited about. I break passions down into 2 things, Ken. I basically say there's an internal passion, and an internal passion is anything that just revs your motor, really gets you going. You wake up in the morning, your feet at the ground, you are super excited about the day because it's a passion that I have. It's something that I'm excited about. And then there's an external passion. And an external passion is anything that breaks our heart. This could be anything from, homelessness, fatherlessness, all these different things that just break our heart that we have a passion to overcome. So we have strengths, weakness, passion, and then we have brand. And brand is anything that people think about you when they see your face or hear your name. And when you recognize that you have a brand, just like Coca-Cola has a brand and Starbucks has a brand, you have a brand. And even though you have a brand right now as we speak, as you hear this, the reality is you can always change your brand. That's part of what I want to help you with as well. And then, of course, the fifth question is, what do you believe? Now, this is an incredibly important question because this is foundational to who you are and how you're viewed and how far you're going to go. And the reality is this: most people, their belief system is built on somebody else's belief system, their parents, their friends, their professors at the university, any relationship you have. We adopt these belief systems, but they're not ours. So they're hollow. They're not real. So when your back is against the wall, and your back will be against the wall at one time in your life at least, what's going to come out of you is what you put in. And if you put in somebody's empty belief system, well, that's what's going to hold you up or make you fall when that happens. And then the half question is the most important question, is why. It connects everything together. We need to ask why we have those strengths, why we have those weaknesses. Why are we passionate about what we're passionate about? Why do people think this way? And why do we believe what we believe? All of these questions lead to an understanding of who we are, our identity. And we're experiencing an identity crisis like never before in this world. And in order for us to get to the purpose to which we were created, we need to answer and address the identity issue first. So that's a quick summation of the 5.5 questions everyone must answer. And I promise you answer these questions honestly, and you bring your answers to people who love you and that you trust, and it's for feedback. Did I nail this? Is this really who I am? You're going to see so many things that you never saw before. So that's just a quick summary, Ken.
Fantastic. So I know I do the strengths and weaknesses for businesses all the time. That's part of a traditional SWOT analysis, sure. Right? So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I haven't ever done the passion or the belief before, and I struggle with belief all over the board. I like to call them ideas more than beliefs because they change quite a bit when I'm really diving in deep. And my why, I've always looked at it a different way. I've always said, why am I doing the things that I'm doing, right? Why do I get up and do my hustle and all those things? So I like the different perspective on your why of why am I these kinds of things? Yep. I think the why you're doing the job that you're doing is also an important question that people need to ask themselves. But I really like that different perspective, and I appreciate you summarizing all of that up for us, Joe. So thank you very much for that. Is there anything, like if somebody was in that corporate America job and they're looking to make that leap into, they've done the business plan, they've got it all, they're sitting on it. I'll tell you, when I was a kid, I hated this. My parents would always sit on the couch and watch TV, and they'd complain about their day job, and they would come up with restaurant ideas or business ideas, and they would talk, and they would romanticize with, one day I'm going to own a business. And maybe that's part of the why I do what I do today, because I was always so mad at them that they never took that jump. And my father did finally 2 years before he died. And I thought it was, probably the happiest 2 years of his life at work, is that he finally made that jump. But it was unfortunately, very late in his life. If somebody's in that boat, do you have any advice for them that, like, how do they make that transition? Because it's scary, right? You're leaving comfort of somebody else is telling you what to do all the time, and somebody else is, yelling at you when you don't clock in on time. And when you don't have that, it's pretty easy to stray. I know that I've strayed multiple times in my life. I've destroyed some companies because I stopped paying attention to them, right? Sure. So, what do you tell somebody that's in that boat and they want to make that jump, they want to make that change, they're ready for it, but they don't have either the courage or the money or whatever it is? What is your advice to that person today?
Well, let's talk about a real life example. Back in 2008, 2009, I believe we experienced something in the real estate world that cracked our economy.
Oh yeah.
And the first thing that happened is a lot of companies downsized. So now I want you to understand that when you get downsized and you're looking for that a $200,000 job that you just lost, you figure, well, wait a minute, I'm expert at what I do. Let me go hang a shingle out, get an office, and I can start a business myself. Here's the challenge. Just because you're expert at something doesn't mean you're ready to run a business. There are things that they call bills, rent,
Yep.
marketing, all these different things to get you out there. And most people jump into a business and they're just not ready for it. And what happens is they start a business. And again, I think one of the great examples is when I owned a newspaper. And we saw this happen. You saw people come in and they said, I want to buy a full page ad. I said, oh, how many times would you like to run that? And they'd say, well, once. I said, well, don't waste your money, because the odds of somebody seeing it just one time, you're going to miss a lot of the audience. Why don't you take that money and break it out into quarter page ads so you can at least run 4? But what is your budget for marketing? Well, I really don't have one. See, the problem is we invest all this money into building a business, but then we forget, well, I guess somebody really needs to know about my business in order for me to get new customers or clients. And that's a big challenge. So my thing to anybody that's looking to go out into the business world today is to do it part-time, to put your toe in the water, test it out. Don't take your employer's money and do the work while you're working for them. Have integrity and do it right. Do it after hours, do it during the weekend. But if you can do something, test it. I always like to throw things against the wall and see what will stick. I'll talk to people and say, what do you think about this? Again, do your due diligence to make sure that first and foremost, the opportunity that you want to offer to people actually addresses a real need in the community. Make sure you're not one of a million people, and also know why you're doing what you're doing. Make sure what you're doing is unique in terms of even one aspect of that business. What is unique about what you're doing that you can offer to the marketplace? Those are just a few quick things, but the reality is this: they need to understand, do they have the mental capacity to be on their own? Because let's face it, there's a lot of ebbs and flows when you're in your own business. And if your stomach can't handle that roller coaster ride, it's probably better that you don't take it, at least on a full-time basis.
I couldn't agree more. It is a roller coaster, and you have to, and I don't know that you can be ready for it, right? Owning a business is like having a child. You're never going to be ready to make that jump. Now, you did say something that I wildly appreciate. Don't start that business on your current employer's back, right? Mm-hmm. It's wildly important. Don't take advantage of your current employer while you're starting your own business. However, I think there is a hack. If you work for a small firm, you can approach the entrepreneur that started that firm, say, hey, this is my idea. Do you mind if I take 5 or 10% of my day each day and I work on this, and for that little bit of leeway that I get my job, your company will have a percentage in my new company. And I think that works out very well. It gives you the kind of the leeway that you need to work on this in some of your business hours, and it gets your current boss a little bit of a skin in the game, so he knows that. And you never know, he might put more fuel on the fire and throw cash towards you to really get it going if he likes that idea. But I think that only works in small firms, and if you know the owner, and the owner has a very entrepreneurial spirit. If you're in that boat, though, I think you're in a great spot, and that's the boat that I was in for sure.
And Ken, I got to tell you that, I love that. That's creative thinking. So many people have this fatalist view that they look at this one wall in front of them and I can't do this. The reality is there's always a way, especially if you were built to do this. So we can't give up. I always use the example of a car going up a hill and it's shaking as it's going up the hill. And you just say, forget it, and you start going back down the hill. But you didn't realize here was the top. You were right there, and the rest was going down easy. We quit too much. I wrote another book, in 7 Pillars of a Legacy-Minded Man, and the 6th pillar is perseverance. And I found, at least this is the work that I do for ministry with legacy-minded men. I found that so many men are quitters. They quit so easily. And I've had people ask me, as you speak about these 7 pillars, can you focus on pillar 6? Because our guys are quitters. Listen, you got to recognize that the person who stays in the game, even amidst controversy and challenge and just all kinds of things, he's the one who stands the most to gain if he stays in the game, because everybody else is falling away. Stay in the game with that unique perspective on your business and what you're doing. Answer in a niche in the marketplace and watch what happens. It might take a little bit of time, but that's why we created the half-baked ideas, because listen, everybody out there right now, you got a half-baked idea. You've got a dream or an idea that you want to do. You've sat on that couch that Ken talked about, and you talked about something, but most of you have never done anything. Well, I'm challenging you to get off that couch and look at what your dream is seriously and start putting it to the test. Start asking yourself questions. Is this really something that, first of all, I can do? Is it something that's worthwhile to somebody else? Will it help elevate other people? And will it answer an issue? You come up with answers to that say yes, yes, and yes, then start surrounding yourself with people that are going to help you make that dream real.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. That is phenomenal advice across the board. I couldn't have said it better myself. I do want to bring up, there's a book that I think every entrepreneur in the world has read, and it's Napoleon Hill. What's the name of the book, Chris? It's but anyway, they're in that book.
Think and Be Rich.
Think and Be Rich. I'm looking at the book right now. It's sitting right in front of me, but it's on a specific page, and I read this page at least once a week, and it's the story about the 3 feet from gold, right? That the guy was digging for gold. He was 3 feet from gold, but he gave up, sold all of his equipment. The next guy comes up, hits a couple of hammers, and he's on a big vein. So you're absolutely right. People quit too early. It gets tough and they just give up. So back to your passion. If you're not passionate about the thing that you want to do, like even if it answers all those other yeses, if you don't think you can do that all day, every day, then you probably shouldn't jump into that boat, because there's going to be days, even like I have a business that I don't work out at all, right? I just own it. My wife works there full time. But in days like today where you have got COVID and there's 6 people out, well, I might have to go and run that business for a week or two, right?
It's right.
To keep the doors open. So it's a tough call. And if you think it's a great idea that can make you a whole lot of money, but you're like, man, I'd be miserable running that business all day, I think you should just walk away.
Well, part of the formula of the 5.5 questions is this. If you recognize what your strengths are and you understand what your passions are, that convergence point almost always points to your purpose, because it's your strength and it's your passion. And when they come together, it's a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. And
Absolutely.
Most people don't recognize that in their passions, as long as they're clean passions, there is always something there that they need to dig deeper, because again, where their passion meets their strengths, I almost guarantee you are going to find a hint to your purpose.
Absolutely. That is fantastic. For me, it's boxing and business. I own a boxing school and I do clicks and bricks, right? So I've definitely put myself in that right wheelhouse to be doing the things that I love to do all day. And I definitely want everybody on the planet to do those things. And in this great resignation, there's never been a better time. Joe, thank you so much for your time today. I've had a blast talking to you. Is there anything that you would like to leave the audience before we go?
Don't go to your grave without living out your dream. You were built for something specific. It's your responsibility to find out what it is. And if I can help you do that, go to notjustanaveragejoe.com and I'll be delighted to speak with you.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time today, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Again, if you'd like to join me on my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. You can ask me any question about business or technology, and I'll give you a completely free, unbiased answer. No charge at all. That's it. Get to work.